At her medical checkup, she faced the ex-fiancé who left her 5 years ago. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to the main character. The clinic smells like disinfectant and fresh paper. The lights are too bright, the kind that makes everything feel exposed, even thoughts you try to keep buried. She sits alone on the edge of the examination table, feet barely touching the floor, hands folded tightly in her lap. The paper beneath her crinkles every time she shifts, a small sound that feels louder than it should. This is supposed to be routine, just a medical checkup, something she has postponed for months because life kept getting in the way. Work deadlines, sleepless nights, the quiet ache in her chest that never fully goes away. She tells herself she will be in and out in less than 30 minutes. Her eyes drift to the clock on the wall. The second hand ticks forward. Each second feels deliberate, heavy. She exhales slowly and stares at the door, waiting for it to open. 5 years. That is how long it has been since she last allowed herself to think about him. 5 years since the wedding that never happened. 5 years since the man she trusted more than anyone else walked away without giving her a reason that made sense. She thought she had healed. She thought time had done its job. The door opens. She looks up without thinking, and the world stops. The man standing there is wearing a white coat now, calm, composed, professional. His hair is shorter, his face more serious, but she would recognize those eyes anywhere. She has memorized them once, loved them once, cried over them more times than she would ever admit. It is him, her ex-fiancé, the man who left her 5 years ago. For a moment, neither of them speaks. The silence stretches, thick and uncomfortable, like the air before a storm. She feels her heartbeat in her ears. Her throat tightens. Every instinct tells her to stand up and leave, to grab her bag, walk out, and never look back. But her body does not move. He blinks first, just once, as if grounding himself. His expression does not change, but she sees it. The flicker of recognition, the brief hesitation he quickly hides behind training and control. He says her name. Hearing it from his mouth again feels like a bruise being pressed. She swallows hard. This is not how she imagined seeing him again. Not here, not like this. Not in a moment when she already feels so vulnerable. She wants to ask him why he left. Why he disappeared when everything was already planned, when invitations were sent, when forever was supposed to begin. Instead, she says nothing. He clears his throat and gestures toward the chair, his voice steady, careful, professional, as if he has not just stepped back into the most painful chapter of her life. She realizes then that this room is too small for the past they share, too quiet for the words that were never said, too sterile for emotions that never truly healed. And as she sits there, caught between walking out and staying, one thought rises above the rest. This appointment was supposed to check her health. She never expected it would force her to confront the one wound that never fully healed. She does not leave. That fact alone surprises her. She sits there, hands still folded in her lap, staring at the floor as if it might offer an explanation for how her life has folded back onto itself so neatly, so cruelly. Her heart is still racing, but now there is something else beneath it. A familiar heaviness, the kind that settles in when old memories wake up all at once. 5 years ago, she stood in a dress she never got to wear again. 5 years ago, she waited in a small apartment filled with unopened wedding gifts, her phone silent, her chest tight with a dread she refused to name. He never showed up. No call, no message, just absence. The kind that echoes long after the door closes. People told her time would heal it. They always do. And for a while, she believed them. She rebuilt her life carefully, piece by piece. A new job, a new routine, a quiet strength that came from learning how to stand alone. She stopped checking her phone at night. She stopped expecting apologies that never came. She learned how to smile again without meaning it. But healing, she discovered, is not the same as forgetting. Now, sitting in a medical examination room with the man who once promised her forever, she feels every part of that unfinished story pressing against her ribs. Her body has not been kind to her these past few years. Headaches that arrive without warning, a constant tightness in her chest. Nights where sleep refuses to come, no matter how exhausted she feels. She tells herself it is just stress. Everyone is stressed. That is what adults say when they do not want to look too closely. Still, her primary care physician insisted she come in. Insisted she stop ignoring the signals her body has been sending for years. And now, of all people, he is the one reading her chart. She notices the way his eyes linger for a second longer than necessary on the clipboard. The way his jaw tightens, just slightly, as if he already knows what he is going to find there. He asks her a few standard questions: her age, her symptoms, her sleep patterns. His voice is even, controlled, professional. It makes her angry, because 5 years ago he was not professional. He was warm, certain, in love. She answers his questions with the same restraint, short sentences, no extra details. She refuses to give him more of herself than the situation requires. This is a medical appointment, she reminds herself. Nothing more. But the past does not respect boundaries. When he asks about stress, her fingers curl tighter into her palms. She almost laughs. Stress has been the background noise of her life since the day he walked out of it. She wants to say that. She wants to ask if he remembers what he left behind. Instead, she nods. He makes a note on her chart. That simple movement sends a sharp realization through her. He is not just someone from her past. He holds authority here, control, the ability to see parts of her life she has worked hard to keep sealed off. She hates how exposed that makes her feel. At the same time, she hates herself for noticing that he looks tired, older, as if the years have taken something from him too. The silence between them grows heavy again, not awkward, loaded. She wonders if he knows what those 5 years did to her. How many mornings she woke up replaying his last smile. How many nights she questioned her own worth. How long it took before she stopped blaming herself. She wonders if he ever thought of her when the world was quiet. The thought unsettles her. Because despite everything, a small, unwanted truth slips in. Her heart still recognizes him. And that realization scares her more than any diagnosis ever could. He asks her to take a slow breath. It is a simple request. Routine. Something he has likely said thousands of times to other patients. Yet hearing it from him sends a strange tension through her chest. She hesitates, then does as he asks. Inhale. Exhale. The air feels colder than before, as if the room itself has shifted. He explains the next steps in a calm, measured voice. Blood pressure, heart rate, a few follow-up questions. Nothing invasive, nothing urgent. He is careful with his words, almost overly so, as if every sentence has been rehearsed in his mind before reaching his lips. She notices the distance he keeps, one full step farther back than necessary. His hands remain visible, deliberate, respectful. He does not rush. He does not linger. That should make her feel safer. Instead, it makes everything feel heavier. As he works, he watches the monitor more than he watches her. The numbers appear, steady but not ideal. He frowns, just slightly, a professional reaction. Still, she catches it. She has always been good at reading him. That skill never truly left her. He asks when the headaches started. She answers honestly this time. A few years ago, around the time she changed jobs, around the time she stopped sleeping well, around the time she stopped believing that closure was something everyone gets. He nods and writes it down. When he asks about anxiety, she pauses longer than before. The word feels too small for what she carries. Anxiety sounds manageable, temporary. What she feels has been living with her for years, quietly shaping her days. She finally says yes. That is when he looks at her, really looks at her, not like a man remembering the woman he loved, but like a doctor seeing a patient who has been carrying too much for too long. His expression softens, not with pity, but with concern. The kind that does not ask for permission to exist. For a brief moment, she almost forgets to guard herself. He explains what he suspects. Chronic stress, prolonged emotional strain. The body holding on to what the mind never fully processed. He keeps his tone neutral, but his words land with weight. This is not something that appeared overnight. This has been building for years. She feels exposed again, not physically, but emotionally, as if her body has betrayed the story she tells the world about being fine. He recommends further tests, follow-up visits, lifestyle changes, rest, real rest, not the kind people pretend to get. He emphasizes that this is not about blame. It is about listening to what her body has been trying to say. She wants to tell him that she learned how to ignore pain because of him. She does not. Instead, she nods and stares at the wall behind his shoulder. The posters about heart health and stress management blur together. She wonders how many people sit on this same table, carrying invisible wounds no one else can see. When he finishes, he sets the clipboard down and takes a breath of his own. The silence that follows is different now, less sharp, more careful. He tells her she did the right thing by coming in. Those words hit harder than she expects, because no one has said that to her in a long time. For years, she has made every decision alone. She has convinced herself that needing help was weakness, that surviving meant staying silent. Hearing affirmation from the one person who once walked away makes her chest ache in a new way. She meets his eyes again. There are questions there, regret, things unsaid pressing against restraint. But he does not cross the line. He does not apologize, not yet. He does not explain, not yet. He simply tells her he will take good care of her, not as the man who once promised her a future, but as the doctor standing in front of her now. And somehow, that restraint feels like the first honest thing between them in 5 years. As she gathers her things and prepares to leave, one thought follows her out of the room. This visit was meant to check her health. Instead, it has reopened a wound she never fully examined, and she is not sure whether facing it will finally heal her or break her all over again. She expects him to leave the room first. That would be easier, cleaner, one less moment to navigate. But instead, he stays where he is, standing near the counter as she slides off the examination table and straightens her clothes with slow, deliberate movements. Every motion feels heavier than it should, as if the air itself is pressing down on her shoulders. When she finally turns toward the door, his voice stops her. Not sharp, not urgent, just quiet. He asks if she has a moment. She freezes with her hand on the handle. For a second, she considers saying no. She could walk out, schedule the follow-up with another doctor, pretend this encounter never happened. That is what the version of her from 3 years ago would have done. But something has shifted. She nods once without turning around. They step into the hallway outside the examination rooms, where the sounds of the clinic return. Phones ringing softly, footsteps passing, low voices behind closed doors. Life continuing, indifferent to the history standing between them. He keeps his distance, always one step back, always careful. He tells her that if she is uncomfortable continuing care under him, the clinic will reassign her immediately. No questions asked, no explanations required. His tone is calm, respectful. He means it. That should make her feel relieved. Instead, it makes her chest tighten. She asks him why he did not say anything when he first saw her name on the schedule. He does not answer right away. He looks down the hallway, then back at her, as if weighing something invisible. He says he did not know how. The honesty in that simple sentence catches her off guard. He explains that he almost canceled the appointment, that he stood in his office for several minutes, staring at her name, wondering if fate was being cruel or fair. In the end, he chose professionalism, the one thing he knew how to control. She lets out a short, humorless laugh. Professionalism was never the problem between them. She asks him if he ever planned to tell her why he left. The question hangs there, fragile and dangerous. He does not deflect it. He tells her that if she wants to talk, truly talk, it should not happen here. Not in a hallway where anyone could overhear half a sentence and misunderstand the rest. He suggests the small cafe across the street. Neutral ground, no pressure. She hesitates. 5 years ago, she would have agreed without thinking. One word from him used to be enough. Now, agreeing feels like a risk. She tells him she does not owe him anything. He nods. He agrees. He says he is not asking for forgiveness, not today. He only wants to answer the questions he never gave her the chance to ask. That is what does it. Not guilt, not nostalgia, but the quiet acceptance that he has no claim over her choice. They sit across from each other at the cafe, a small table by the window. The smell of coffee fills the space between them. It feels strangely normal, too normal for a moment that has been 5 years in the making. She notices the way his hands wrap around the cup, steady, controlled. The same hands that once held hers when they talked about names for children they never had. He does not start with excuses. He starts with the truth he should have given her back then. He tells her that 5 years ago, he was diagnosed with a serious condition, one that carried uncertainty, risk, a future filled with treatments and questions he could not answer. He says he was afraid of becoming a burden, afraid of watching her put her life on hold for something that might take everything from both of them. So he made a choice, a selfish one, disguised as sacrifice. He thought leaving her completely would hurt less than staying and asking her to choose. She listens without interrupting. When he finishes, she feels something crack open inside her. Not relief, not forgiveness, something sharper. She tells him that he took her choice away, that love does not mean protection without consent, that walking away without explanation did not spare her pain. It multiplied it. Her voice shakes, but she does not look away. For the first time since they sat down, he looks like a man who understands the damage he caused. He does not defend himself. He only says he is sorry, not for leaving, but for underestimating her strength. And as the words settle between them, she realizes this conversation is not about reopening the past. It is about deciding whether it still controls her future. The cafe conversation does not end with raised voices or dramatic exits. It ends quietly. They finish their drinks in near silence, the kind that feels heavy but honest. When they stand to leave, there is no promise made, no expectation set, just a shared understanding that something long buried has finally been named. Outside, the air feels cooler, cleaner. She walks back to her car alone. That night, sleep does not come easily. Her mind replays his words, not as excuses, but as context. She does not forgive him, not yet. But for the first time in years, her questions are no longer unanswered. That alone loosens something inside her chest. Over the next few days, she tries to return to her routine. Work meetings, emails, grocery runs, the carefully constructed life she built after he left. But her body reacts differently now. The headaches ease slightly. The tightness in her chest comes and goes instead of staying constant. It is subtle, but she notices. She wonders if it is coincidence, or if speaking the truth out loud has shifted something deeper. A week later, the clinic calls to schedule her follow-up. She hesitates with the phone in her hand. She could ask for another doctor. It would be simple, clean. Instead, she agrees to return. When she walks back into the clinic, the familiar scent of disinfectant no longer feels quite as harsh. The lights are still bright, but they do not overwhelm her the same way. She sits in the waiting area, flipping through a magazine without reading a single word. When he steps into the room, his expression is calm, neutral, exactly as it should be. He does not mention the cafe, not at first. They focus on her results. He explains them clearly, patiently. He adjusts her care plan, recommends therapy alongside medical treatment, not as an afterthought, but as a necessary part of healing. He tells her that the body remembers what the mind avoids. She believes him. Over the next several weeks, her visits become routine again, but different. There is trust now, boundaries, respect. He never pushes, never crosses the line. When she struggles, he listens. When she resists, he gives space. Slowly, her symptoms improve. She sleeps through the night more often. Her breathing steadies. The constant ache beneath her ribs fades into something manageable. Healing does not happen all at once, but it happens. And so does something else. One afternoon, during a follow-up appointment, she notices the fatigue in his eyes again, deeper this time. She remembers what he told her at the cafe, the diagnosis, the uncertainty he carried alone. She asks how he is doing. The question catches him off guard. Doctors are not used to being asked that. He hesitates, then answers honestly. He is stable, managing, still learning how to live without hiding. That admission changes the dynamic between them. They are no longer just doctor and patient. They are two people navigating healing on different sides of the same room. Their conversations remain careful, but warmer. Sometimes, after appointments, they talk briefly in the hallway, about books, about work, about how strange it feels to meet someone again after thinking you had already lost them forever. There is no rush. She realizes one day that she no longer feels her chest tighten when she sees him. The memories still exist, but they do not control her breathing anymore. She feels stronger, more grounded, like someone who survived something and learned from it. Healing, she learns, is not about erasing the past. It is about carrying it without letting it crush you. As she leaves the clinic after another appointment, she pauses at the door. For the first time since this all began, she allows herself a quiet thought. Maybe the story that broke her is not the one that defines her. Maybe it is the one that teaches her how to heal. The truth does not come all at once. It unfolds quietly, in pieces she does not expect. During one of her follow-up visits, she arrives early and sits alone in the consultation room, scrolling through her phone without reading anything. Her mind is elsewhere, focused inward, on how different she feels compared to a few months ago. Lighter, more present in her own body. When he enters, his expression is more serious than usual. He sits down across from her, not as her doctor first, but as someone who has made a decision. He tells her there is something he should have explained sooner, something related to the condition he mentioned at the cafe. He says he did not want to burden her with information that no longer affected her care, but avoiding it feels dishonest now. She listens carefully. He explains that 5 years ago, his diagnosis was not just uncertain, it was severe, aggressive, the kind that turns time into a question mark. He was told treatment would be long, invasive, and unpredictable. There were no guarantees, only probabilities. He was terrified, not of pain, not of dying, but of becoming someone she would have to carry. He tells her that the night before their wedding, he sat alone in a hospital hallway after receiving his final test results. He stared at the floor and imagined her standing beside him, smiling bravely, pretending not to be afraid. He imagined her life shrinking to fit around his illness, and he could not accept that future for her. So he made the worst decision of his life. He left without explanation, because explaining would have meant asking her to choose, and he did not trust himself to hear her answer. As he speaks, his voice remains steady, but his hands tremble slightly in his lap. It is the first physical sign she has seen of how deeply that time affected him. She does not interrupt. When he finishes, the room feels different, quieter, like the walls themselves are listening. She tells him that she spent years believing she was not enough, that she replayed every argument, every moment of doubt, searching for the reason he walked away. Hearing that he left to protect her does not erase the pain, but it reframes it. It turns confusion into grief. She tells him that love does not mean shielding someone from the truth. It means trusting them with it. That by leaving, he did not spare her suffering. He gave her a different kind. He nods slowly. He agrees. He tells her he has lived with that regret every day since. That surviving his illness did not feel like victory when it cost him the person he loved most. That healing physically did not teach him how to forgive himself. She looks at him then, really looks at him. Not as the man who broke her heart, but as a human being who made a fearful choice and paid for it deeply. There are tears in her eyes, but she does not let them fall. Not yet. She tells him she does not know what forgiveness looks like. That healing does not mean forgetting the pain. It means deciding what to do with it. He listens. He does not rush her. He does not ask for absolution. For the first time, there is no imbalance between them. No doctor and patient. No abandoned and abandoned, just two people standing in the aftermath of a shared past. As the appointment ends, she realizes something unexpected. The story she told herself for 5 years was incomplete, and while the truth hurts, it also frees her from carrying blame that was never hers to begin with. When she leaves the clinic that day, the weight on her chest feels different. Not gone, but finally understood. The shift happens quietly, but it changes everything. A few days after that appointment, she receives a message from the clinic administration. It is polite, neutral, informational. They explain that due to an internal review, her case will be reassigned to another physician, unless she specifically requests to continue care under him. The words sit on her screen longer than she expects. She understands why the policy exists. Boundaries matter. Ethics matter. Especially now, after everything that has been said. The clinic does not know their history in detail, but it knows enough to be cautious. For the first time, the choice is fully hers. She spends the night thinking about it. Not about him as the man who left, not about him as the doctor who diagnosed her condition, but about herself, about how far she has come, about how much stronger she feels, compared to the woman who waited 5 years ago with unanswered questions. The next morning, she goes to the clinic in person. She asks to speak with him privately. They meet in a small consultation room, not the examination room this time. Neutral space. Chairs facing each other. No equipment. No charts between them. She tells him about the message. He listens without surprise. He says he expected it, that he would understand if she chose to transfer care, that her comfort matters more than his presence. The words are steady, but she hears what he does not say, that losing her again would hurt. She asks him something she has been holding back. She asks if continuing treatment under him would cross a line for him. Not professionally, personally. He takes a long breath before answering. He tells her that caring for her has been the hardest and most meaningful test of his integrity. That every appointment has forced him to confront the man he was and the man he wants to be. He says he has never once allowed his feelings to override her safety or autonomy, and he never will. But he admits something else, too. That seeing her heal has been changing him. That the distance he once used to protect himself no longer feels like strength. The room grows quiet. This is the moment she realizes that healing does not always move forward in a straight line. Sometimes it demands confrontation, not with the past, but with the present. She tells him she is afraid, not of him, of losing herself again, of confusing gratitude with love, of stepping back into a story she worked so hard to survive. He does not interrupt. When she finishes, he nods and says something that surprises her. He says she does not need to decide anything today. He says that if she chooses another doctor, he will support it fully. If she chooses to stay, he will continue to treat her with the same care and restraint he has shown from the beginning. And if at any point she feels uncertain, she can walk away without explanation. No disappearing acts, no silence, only clarity. That promise lands deeper than any apology ever could. She leaves the room feeling torn, but grounded. That evening, she sits alone on her couch, the city lights glowing through her window. She thinks about the version of herself who believed love meant endurance, who believed pain was something to tolerate quietly. She is not that woman anymore. The next day, she sends her decision. She chooses to continue care under him, not because of the past, but because of who she is now. When she returns to the clinic the following week, their interaction feels different again, calmer, clearer. There is no unspoken tension, no longing in their eyes, just mutual respect, carefully built and fiercely protected. The crisis does not explode, it resolves. And in that resolution, she understands something important. True healing is not about reclaiming what was lost. It is about choosing what is healthy, even when it is hard. And for the first time in a long while, she feels proud of the choice she made. The shift does not announce itself with grand gestures. It reveals itself in consistency. Weeks pass, then a month. Her appointments continue. Her treatment plan remains steady. Therapy sessions become part of her routine, not something she resents, but something she relies on. She learns how to sit with discomfort instead of running from it, how to name emotions before they turn into symptoms. Her body responds. The headaches become rare. The tightness in her chest loosens. She wakes up one morning and realizes she slept through the night without waking once. No racing thoughts, no sudden fear gripping her breath. Healing, she learns, is quiet, and he remains exactly what he promised to be: professional, present, respectful. He checks in on her progress, adjusts medication when needed, encourages her without pushing. When she struggles, he does not rescue her. He reminds her that she already knows how to stand on her own. That matters more than she expected. One afternoon, after a particularly good appointment, she lingers by the door instead of leaving right away. Not because she feels pulled toward him, but because she feels steady enough to stay. She thanks him, not for the past, not for what he once meant to her, but for how he has shown up now. He accepts the gratitude without turning it into something else. No hidden meaning, no longing glance, just a nod and a quiet acknowledgement. That restraint feels like trust. A few days later, she receives an email from the clinic. Her test results are stable, improved. The words bring an unexpected rush of emotion, not relief alone, but pride. She did this. She faced what hurt. She stayed. That evening, she sends him a short message through the clinic portal. Professional, brief. She tells him the results gave her hope. He replies with one sentence. He says he is proud of her. The words sit with her long after she closes her laptop, not because she needs his approval, but because it feels earned. Time continues to move forward. Their conversations begin to expand, carefully. Sometimes at the end of an appointment, they talk about small things, a book he is reading, a place she wants to travel, ordinary details, safe ground. One day, she mentions a volunteer program she joined, helping patients navigate long-term recovery plans. It surprises her how natural it feels to say it out loud, how far she has come from the woman who once avoided anything that reminded her of pain. He listens with genuine interest. He tells her that surviving illness taught him something similar, that recovery is not about returning to who you were before. It is about becoming someone who understands fragility without being ruled by it. Their eyes meet, and for the first time, there is no ache attached to the moment, just recognition. A few weeks later, during her final scheduled follow-up, he closes her chart and tells her that medically, she no longer needs regular visits. Her condition is stable, manageable, strong. The word strong lands gently, but firmly. She feels a strange mix of gratitude and sadness, not because she wants the appointments to continue, but because this chapter is ending. And endings, even good ones, carry weight. As she stands to leave, she realizes something important. She is no longer defined by what happened 5 years ago. She is defined by what she chose to do after facing it. At the door, she turns back once. She tells him that meeting him again did not break her. It helped her finish healing what was left unfinished. He smiles, small and sincere. And for the first time, she knows without doubt that whatever comes next, it will not be built on fear. It will be built on truth. The last appointment does not feel like an ending at first. It feels like a pause. She walks out of the clinic and into the late afternoon light, the city moving around her as it always has. Cars pass, people hurry by. Life continues, unaware of the quiet milestone she has just crossed. For the first time in years, her body feels like a place she can trust. The weeks that follow are different, not dramatically so, just calmer. She keeps up with therapy. She returns to routines she once abandoned when survival took all her energy. Morning walks, cooking real meals, calling friends instead of canceling plans at the last minute. She notices how often she breathes deeply without thinking about it. Healing has become part of her daily life, not something she chases. She does not see him for a while, and that is okay. When they meet again, it is not in a clinic or a cafe, but at a community health event the hospital hosts one Saturday morning. She almost does not attend. Crowds still make her uneasy, but she goes anyway, standing near the back, listening as doctors and volunteers speak about recovery and resilience. She spots him across the room. He is not looking for her. He is focused on a patient, listening closely, fully present. The sight settles something inside her. Later, as the event winds down, their paths cross naturally. No surprise, no tension, just recognition. They talk briefly about the event, about how busy life has been, about nothing that needs to be resolved. When the conversation slows, she realizes she does not feel pulled backward or forward. She feels centered. He tells her he is glad she came. She tells him she is glad she stayed. They stand there for a moment, the space between them comfortable, honest. No expectations attached, no promises demanded. Before they part, he asks her something quietly. He asks if she would like to get coffee sometime, not as a doctor, not as someone seeking forgiveness, just as two people who survived something and learned from it. He makes it clear that she can say no. She considers the question carefully, not with fear, with clarity. She smiles and tells him yes. Not because the past is forgotten, but because it no longer controls her. The coffee happens weeks later, then another, slowly, thoughtfully. They talk about who they are now, not who they used to be. They set boundaries, they keep them. Trust builds not from history, but from consistency. There is no rush to reclaim what was lost. They are building something new. One evening, as she walks home alone after dinner with him, she realizes something that stops her mid-step. She is not afraid of loving anymore, not because love cannot hurt her again, but because she knows now that she will survive if it does. The story that once broke her did not end in bitterness. It ended in understanding, in choice, in healing. And as she looks ahead, she knows this with certainty. Her life is no longer defined by the man who left her. It is defined by the woman who learned how to stay.